an API, right? We just ran an API and it just gave us some beautiful results here. So one of the things about cases is that most of our report comes in command line, right? But there are imports that helps us to see this probably in HTML dashboard and and the like. So, but we'll come to that in the later session. So let's go back to our documentation. And please, everybody, documentation is very important to get you started for in any programming tool or whatever tool that you want to get started with. It's very important to follow the documentation and get everything that you need to get yourself started. So if we decide to do,
Sorry,
say,
sorry, Pascal, not to take you back. I just wanted to confirm. I know you use Homebrew, and there are users that are not Mac, that their systems are not a Mac, right? So I don't know if you want to quickly run through the setup for a Windows system. I was expecting someone to raise their hand to ask that, but I guess everyone has that covered. If you can just like do a quick 1 minute overview on how to get it set up on a Windows PC.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. Uh, okay, so if we go to Homebrew, right, this command is
Now,
for, hello,
so
this
once you
command
call
is
me,
for, is anyone speaking? Sorry. This command is for those who have Mac. But if you want to install K6, right, for Windows, they have Chocolate, right? So if you go to Chocolate, their installer for Mac, right? You can download, there's a, so let me just do this so that I can get to the download session of Chocolate. I guess there's a step to do that, right? Oh yeah, there's kind of a way to just run an execution. So if you just run this execution, the command will be complete, and then you should be able to install cases into your PC. I think there are other ways to install it too. Apologies, I'm not too good with installation for um, Windows other than exe, but I think this particular, I'll just share this. I'll just share this to the call. Yeah, just share this in the call for those who want to install um, Chocolate in their Windows environment. That can help you out with it. So, and there are other tutorials too on how to install things on Windows using Chocolate as well. So most of the command are on the install page of K6, can help you do the installation. Ubuntu is there as well. CentOS or Fedora is there as well. Yeah. If you want to use Windows package, there's also another way to install it. If you don't want to use Chocolate, if you want to use Windows package, you can do this as well. Just copy and paste, and then it will be installed into your listen. There's also an installer as well. So if you click on this installer, you should get uh, a, so I don't know if this is blocking everyone as well. So you should get like an installer exe, like I mentioned, to help you with the installation as well into your PC. I hope that clarifies installation on Windows PC, right? So let's us move on. Yeah, so now it's now time for our first test that has to do with, load and everything. So let's go to the pagina, what they call it, the document again, right? Um, so HTTP request, we're here. Now, if you wish to add some few things, right? There's a part where you get to distinguish, you get to add like, virtual users, how many virtual users you're running, how many, at what duration, and all of that. There are ways to run that. You can either run that on the command line, or you run it directly to uh, run it directly into the script itself. So sorry, give me a sec. I need to go to that place. This is the installation part, I think. Before we get to threshold. Threshold. It started, yeah. So now this is the part I was talking about, right? On Linux, Docker, and every other place, there are different ways you run the command, right? For Windows, we have this, right? So let me explain what this is all about. So this is saying that you should run K6 with virtual user of 10 and a duration of 30 seconds. What it's saying is 10 virtual users should hit the endpoint simultaneously, right, for 30 seconds, right, and hold it for 30 seconds. That's what this is saying. Ours is this. We'll be using this for our demo, right? Now, initially, we just said get and everything. I need to add this into our test scripts. So instead of scripts, we are doing this, right? So now, scripts staying away. So now we're saying, oh, cases, please run this for 10 virtual users within 30 seconds duration. So let us do that. Let's run the script. While that is happening, to save time.
As in, how far can you delay my yellow surprise for you?
Sorry about that. He's been muted.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we've done that test, and then this is the results, right? It's saying that nothing failed, right? You can see it, HTTP request here. Nothing failed, and the speed as well is here, and then the iteration as well, right? The minimum, the average was this in milliseconds, and the minimum completed in 283.82 milliseconds, right? In the medium, how do they call it? Is it medium or medium? Medium, yeah, is this, right? So what this simply means that we're just trying to get like the full reports on it. If you look at this place, you find out that we're saying that 90% of these endpoints users, right, did this particular response, right? That means the response time, right? 90% of it. Then this one, 95% also did the same, did this number of milliseconds to complete, right? So
All
we
right,
also see
Pascal,
other things.
sorry to cut in. We have a number of questions in the chat. Fumi has the first question as to where was the URL for this test added. You might want to take a step back to show where the
Okay.
URL for this test was added. Thanks.
Yeah, it was basically on the when we were writing our first test case, right? Where is it? Okay, this is another one. So this is the URL we are adding, right? This came from the documentation. I just picked the URL and used the documentation URL to run the test. Does that answer your question? In your case, in your company, they may give you a particular URL to run, and all you just need to do is to copy this and replace this guy, and then ensure that you add the number of virtual users based on the requirements of your company, right? And the duration to run it. Is that clear?
Not quite, because I see the follow-up question and I think you may need to backtrack a bit. So, what I think might be helpful might be if you take it in steps. Say step one. I don't know if Fumi joined a bit late when the installation was happening, but if you can just use 5 minutes to take it stepwise. When at the point you created the project, the commands you imputed to generate this test folder and the package.json, if you could just run it through one more time. Because the follow-up question she's asking is, how was get.js and post.js generated? Yeah, so if you can just, I'm really sorry, if you can just take it one step back to create a new project and then start the commands on that project, it will
Oh,
be
wow. Baby steps, huh?
yes,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. All right. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. So, I mentioned the step one from the beginning, right, was first of all to have, for you to start up with a new project, you will need to have a Node.js package into your PC, right? Um, this Node.js, right, would help you run Node projects, right? Of course, we know that K6 is a JavaScript tool. I mentioned that earlier, and we need this to run K6, right? And then once you do that in your project, it will help you to start up, initiate your NPM, right? Because that's what the node is all about. It helps to initiate the NPM. You also need something else. You also need, the step two is to ensure that you have Git, right? Git in your PC, right? You have to ensure you have Git in your PC. To ensure you have Git in your PC, you just have to, first of all, say Git, I think V. Yeah. So if you do Git dash V or Git hyphen version, right? You can do this as well. I think you should be able to check if you actually have Git version in your PC. So if you don't have that, that's the only time you can go here. If you don't have that, that's the only time you can go here and then look for your own environment and install. So once you go to, let's say for instance, for Windows, you can see there are various ways you can download it, but just go straight to this, click to download here, the latest, and then the installation process will take place, right? And once that installation process is completed, you should have Git in your in your PC. For Node, you can just switch from here, Windows, Linux, anyone from here, and get the particular descent. All you just need to do is to copy this guy. See that you copy this guy and just put it in your terminal and hit enter, or you just download your version of Windows, that is the MSI, right? Just download this MSI here, installer, and it will help you install the version that you intend, the version of Node that you should have on your PC. Am I communicating for me? Sorry, I can't see the chats.
It's fine. We can hear you. You can proceed.
Okay. So that said, we are ready to start up our project. So when that's happened, you can now check your node. That's V. If you have node, right? Oh, and by the way, you probably need what they call it. You probably need from version 20, right? Your node should be from version 20 upwards, right? To keep up to the latest packages, right? So when you check, you see that you have 20 plus, you are fine, right? Also check your Git if you're fine as well. So once this is set up and you know you're ready, the next command, right, to set up your project. But before you set up your project, before you hit deploy, you have to choose the folder that you want to work on. So you start up your project by looking for a folder, and yeah, so you can just say create a new folder and say Fumi tests, right? K6, right? And then you create it, right? And then you open that project. Now you're ready to begin. You open your terminal. You can open your terminal probably with this triangle here and just go to terminal, or you can just come to terminal here and say new terminal, right? Now you need a package of .json for you to start up a node project. So first you just say npm init -y, right? And then when you do this, it automatically creates a package of JSON for you. If you wish to do this one at a time, just take out the -y and say, okay, what's the package name, right? It says Fumi test that. If you need to change it, you can change it. But let's leave it at test cases for now. Can someone please mute the mic?
Yes,
and then what version? Version 1.00. If you wish to change it, you can change it as well. Description, you can tell it whatever cases test, right? Session. Entry point is fine for now. Command is fine for now. Git repository, we don't have any for now. Keywords, K6, right? Or something else. Author, your name, or you leave it for now. This one too. And then it says, are you okay with it? Yes. And then it will create a package for you, right? Once that is done, your next command, right, would be actually not a command, but you would need to just create a new folder where you have your test on it. So you just say test, create that new folder, and then in that new folder, you can basically have a different folder for your different tests, right? So let's just leave it at this and just create a new file and call it a get.js. Now, we need to go to the documentation of K6. Why do we need to use documentation? So we don't have any errors, right? You can just say, oh, import K6 from, just like that. You may have errors, right? You may have errors. All you just need to do is just go to the documentation, right? Running your first test, right? Okay, let's use the basic one. We'll get to that later. Installation. Usage.
I think he's on that get started. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So basically, this is a get request, right? This is a get request with virtual users, but I'm looking for a very simple get request. Writing your first steps. This is very, yeah, I was looking for this. Yeah, so Fumi, this is it. This is where I got the URL from. But your URL will change because of your company, right? So all you just need to do is copy this guy right here. This is the import I was trying to do when I said we shouldn't do it so that we cannot have errors, right? So that we can have a clean code, right? So we can just do this, copy this guy, go put it on our get page. Oh, this is the previous one. This is our get page and just paste it. Fumi, tell me if you've caught up.
Yes, I think she acknowledged in the chat. She said, all right,
All right.
with things.
All right. So we move on, right? So now that we have this, we need to tell K6 the way we want to run our test, right? So if we want to write our first test, this is it. If we want to run our first test, this is how we run our first test. So the command will be K6 run, right? K6 run script. This script is actually not the name of our test script name, so we'll change that. So the very first thing we'll do is say K6 run and then copy the relative part of our script and then replace it with this guy, right? So we now have K6 run test slash get dot JS. So when that happens, it will run the test for us. So this one did not give us any number of virtual users. It just stick on the default one, which is one virtual user. If you check it very well, you see it. Iteration 1, virtual user 1, everything 1, right? Nothing really major. So we've not done performance or load test yet. Now, when that happens, the only time it happens is when we start adding arguments like virtual users and duration. So virtual users means, oh, how many people will be hitting that particular endpoint the same time simultaneously? And number of virtual users is 10 in this case. And then the number of the duration at which these virtual users will be running the test is 30 seconds. So I'll just copy this guy, right? I'll just make this a script. I'll just make this a script on our package.json. It's already okay. And this is our new Fumi project, right? Package.json, and then I just copy this relative part and replace this guy here, right? And now I can just simply hit run script, and it will just run this script for me with 10 virtual users and 30 seconds duration, at 30 seconds duration. So let's just wait and see what happens. So essentially what I'm saying is that this is just one way you can set up your virtual users. Another way you can set up your virtual users is with the script directly and not on the options like the arguments on the command. So this is the way. So I'll just do this. I'll just create this and just say get with options, right? Get underscore options. Okay. .js, right? And just paste this. And now what we are saying now is we don't want to put it as a command anymore. We want to put whatever attributes that we need on our test on the script itself. So this is what we did. Virtual users and duration are now in the script. So we don't need to add those arguments again on the command line. So this is it. There's an option, right? It says options, steps, const like variable. So you add this and add this. You can change this according to the requirements of your company, right, where you currently work. Now they've added a new argument, right? The sleep. So what does this sleep do? It helps us to, slow down the test per user, right? So if we have a sleep, it means that after we run this, we sleep for 1 second. This 1 second is per user. So the person runs this, and after 1 second, right, it runs the next one, and after 1 second, it runs the next one. Just keep running it like that for 30 seconds, right? Just keep running it concurrently like that for 30 seconds for each request that it keeps coming in. So this is what this sleep is, and it's also imported from K6, right? You can see this one is the HTTP is imported from K6/HTTP, while the sleep is imported from K6 direct. Any question so far? Or we
There's
run?
a question from Adigo. Adigo, I think you should unmute to speak because we don't know exactly. Your question is in bits, so you might need to unmute to ask it fully.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So
Yeah.
it was, I think it got to a part where he added the durations and the virtual users on the package .json. So
Yeah,
so he said something like on the command line, you understand? So of course, I think what you did here again is just to create it directly and it gets underscore options.js. So instead of having to put it on the package.json. So that's just one. So the second one is, so when you're going to run the new file you created for the GET request, so is it that it's not going to eat the other one, the previous one you added on the package.json?
Okay, nice question. So this gets.js is pointing to this script. So if I want to run get underscore options, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go on. I can
If I
hear
want
you.
to run get underscore options, I will do this. I will just do this. I will just turn this to get underscore options. So now,
Okay, just simply change it.
sorry?
Sorry, Adigo, you can unmute. Sorry, I mistakenly.
Yeah. No problem. So, okay, you're just going to change the part, right?
Yes, you are only checking and changing the relative part and adding it for different tests. So let me do this. Let me add this to the script so that you understand that there are two different tests here. So for every what they call it, for every command have their own. Listen, so this one is pointing to get.js. So I mentioned that we want to now run a get that has options inside the script itself, right? The first one didn't have any option inside the script. That's why we have a command that says, on the command line that says virtual users 10, duration 10 in it. But if you see the second one, you find out that it doesn't have this as the argument because it already have it inside its script. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I think so. So I think for me was I wanted to say you should give clarifications to Fumism. So I think it should answer on too. So she was asking what's the difference between the get options and the scripts written earlier.
So I just mentioned it. The difference is one is on the command line. The second one is inside the script itself, the test himself. So you can see both scripts here. You see that the script here is saying dash dash virtual users and all of that on the command line, right? If I do this, it will take the virtual users on the command line. But if you check this guy, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah. If you check this guy, you will find out that we don't have any virtual user on his own command line. We just pointed at the script file already. That is because this guy already have what we need. Does that answer your question for me? All right, so let's move forward to running, right? The one with the arguments inside the test script. So we also have posts, but it's just a similar thing, right? I'm not going to make too much fuss on this one, but the real one I really want to talk about is ramping, right? That is where your tests really come alive. So I'll just write a new test file. Sorry.
Once again, you might need to explain what ramp up and ramp down means.
Yes, of course, of course. Ramping.js. All right. So let me tell you how that works. Basically, when you say something like ramping up and ramping down means that it's incremental, right? So once you start the test, it starts with the lower targets, right? There's a particular target. It starts with a particular, probably a higher target or a lower target, depending on how you do it. It will ramp up and stay with the highest number of users that you intend to stay, right? Hold it for a while, according to the way you mentioned that you want to hold it, that is a duration, and then ramp down again to a particular duration, and that's what we call targets. So if you have, now this is an example, let me explain. So we now have a check. We've introduced a new thing called check. Just look at check like a validation. In fact, it is a validation. So the check is saying status was 200, okay, and all of that, right? So the ramp here says, oh, I want, and it's always on stages, right? It's always on stages, right? It's on an array, right? It's called stages. So if you do duration, I want this thing to stay 30 seconds with target of 20 users, right? And then later, after 1 minute and 30 seconds, let it be 10 users. Sorry, for 10 users, let it be 1 minute and 30 seconds. Then later, 20 seconds for no users. So it starts with the first ramping, which is 20, and then it comes down to 10, right? And then it goes down to, 0. It could be the other way around. Maybe this one first, hold 10, then it goes up to 30 and 20 targets, and then it comes down. right? It can even start from 0, right, to 10 to 20, right? It depends on how you want to structure your stages, right? And then it depends on how the requirement is coming from your from your company. So let's just do this. Let's just copy this guy, right? Let's just copy this guy and just make use of RAM. This is not the guy we're using. I'm putting it in the wrong in the wrong listen, right? So let's just do this ramping. Just paste it. We're using a different URL now. You can see it. We are using a different URL now, and then we're using this ramping. And then, like I mentioned, we've introduced a new check import, right? And I've explained it already. Check import is like validating your response if the response failed or passed. Yeah, so we'll save this, and then I'm just gonna copy this, paste this, so comma missing, and we have this. So we don't need. Do we need this? Yes, we don't need it. Don't need it. So we're taking out this variation and all of that, right? And then we are also calling this guy as the test, right? So now we run our test. So essentially, if you look at the ramping, this is 30 seconds, this is 20 seconds, that's 60 seconds. And then this is 90 seconds for 30 seconds part. And then that means everything is going for, I guess, 1 minute and 80 seconds, right? I mean, it's 2 minutes and, what do they call it? 2 minutes and 10 seconds or so, or 20 seconds. So it will run by that time, 2 minutes and 20 seconds, yes. It will run by that time, hold it as we've declared here, right? And then give us our results. So in your company, there might be some certain, you know, um, requirements that you may need and all of that. So while this is running, we just need to move forward for the sake of time. This is just how to run it in YAML in the pipeline. So yeah. So we've talked about checks already, and this is it, right? Checks, the other checks. This is response body and all of that. It's basically API testing thing. So it's something that is not new, right? To some of us, and some of us, even if I just mentioned it for the first time, don't be scared. This is um, this is the this is not the best tool to run API testing. This is one of the best tools to run load and performance testing. You can check Postman, and there are other sessions, I hope, in the future that will help sort that out for you. But yes, you can use K6 for your API testing as well, right? Let's see if our ramping is complete. Oh, still running. So now, metrics. There are built-in metrics, right? That cases had. There's data receive, iteration, all these metrics. We've seen it on the report here, right? We've seen it on the report, the metrics. So it's pretty difficult for people who are starting out performance testing to start looking at command line and trying to make out reports out of this. And also very difficult to give stakeholders this kind of reports and all of that. So you now have to generate like a custom report for yourself and all of that. But in the later conversation, we'll look at how we can make this better. So thresholds. Yeah, this is another fun part. So if we look at this, let us quickly go and create a file called thresholds. Thresholds.js. Yeah, if we look at this, it's quite explanatory in terms of the comments that are there. So if you look at this, there's an option. The option is back again, right? And now we are calling in threshold, no longer stages, but we are calling in threshold. And we are saying that the request field, right, at the rate less than 0.01 percent, right? Which is this less than 1%, right? This is it. Then the request duration should be what? 95% of all the endpoints should at least be below 200 milliseconds in terms of duration, right? To run that test. Let's say, for instance, you're running a request and the response should be at least 200 milliseconds before it's completed. That's what this is saying, right? That's what this is saying. So if you look at the command here, expected response to be true and all total results and all. This is beautiful. Right? Request failed, none, right? None failed, which is 0%, right? Let's just run our test. Let's find out if that's the same for us. So yeah, hold our relative path again. And then just take out this guy and run it. Please, am I fast? Is everybody getting it? For me?
Yeah, there are a number of questions in the chat. I was holding off to when you get to a particular break period.
Okay.
I ask you now?
Yeah, go ahead. I can go ahead.
All right. So the first question is on assertions. How do you insert assertions? I was wary of this because I'm sure you are going to get there. But that's the first question so that we don't skip it. It's from Chinonso. The second question is on running large number of users, virtual users. Is there any restriction or limitation to running as many as 10,000 virtual users, or does K6 allow that? That's the second question. The third question is, can K6 be used to, do you want to take the questions one by one so you don't forget?
Yeah, let's take the question one by one, please.
Okay, all right. So the first
So
question,
validation. The first question is on
assertions.
assertions. So I mentioned earlier, I mentioned earlier on assertions, and I said that it's like your own postman assertion, right? And I mentioned checks. Check is an assertion. And I said this is you see this one that says the status should be 200 okay, right? And there are other assertions that talks about response body and all of that in the documentation. Checks handles assertions, basically. You can see it. Check text, response body includes yada yada yada, and all of that. Response size and all of that. There are various checks you can have, right? Look at the 200 okay here and all. You can have like just few checks. So cases did not really put much of the what they call it, much of the assertions on these their documents because they are focusing more on response okay. Once your endpoint is good, the next thing is let's see your load. Let us see your endpoint if it's healthy enough and all of that, right? So does that answer your question? Does that answer the first question, please? I need someone
I'm
to type it.
guessing, yeah, I'm guessing, Chinon, so if you're on the call, you can respond, but we'll quickly move to the next question on the maximum, if there's a maximum number of virtual users.
So Cases is actually one of the tools that can take a lot of users, but it also depends on your machine, right? If you do that with JMeter, compared to JMeter, Cases can do more. You can go as far as 1,000, 5,000, and all, depending on your local machine, right? But anybody with a regular machine can run 100 to 1,000, right? Another thing again you need to consider as well is the API. What's the API's capacity for you to run load test? There should be an API capacity for a load test. So your PC may run 10,000 because of how high your RAM is and whatnot. But if your API's capacity is 5, it will fail your 1,000. So that's just the truth. It will fail your 1,000, to fail your whatever size that your PC can take. But yes, and the endpoint, the capacity of users, number of users is very significant compared to JMeter. So please,
All right.
next question.
Yeah, next question is on using K6 to run entire API collections. Can you run an entire API collection using K6?
Sure, you can. Just like any other API testing tool, you can. Sure.
Okay,
But
we run it.
it's not with virtual. Don't do that with virtual users. Don't put many virtual. If you want to just use it as a pure API testing tool, you can. But if you want to run virtual, you have to consider your PC capabilities. You have to consider the API, the API load capabilities. You have to consider all of that. So if you want to go and do first endpoint, 50,000 virtual users, second endpoint, want to run full Postman like that, full Postman collection, so to speak, you are likely to have failures everywhere. So just one virtual user, everybody run test, and you'll be fine.
All right, thank you. Next question is on how does a tester advise the business team on the ideal throughput for response time of the application? So you're in a team where the requirements are not specified, especially around load tests. No one really tells you the requirements. So this person is asking what the ideal throughput is. How do you advise your business team on the ideal throughput and response time for your performance test?
Okay, so it depends on the endpoint you are interacting with, right? For an endpoint that has to do with e-commerce, right? E-commerce endpoints, maybe like on the time of Black Friday, for instance, your people already have data on the number of users that hit your endpoint in Black Friday, during Black Fridays, and all of that. So you can recommend your test based on that data, so you can have informed decisions, right? But response, I would say a minute or even less for response time. So people do 500 milliseconds, but a minute or less for your response time. If it is more than a minute, especially for all those post requests, right? It's more than a minute. That's a problem. So you can recommend response time. And please, one thing we fail to understand is that we always try to run endpoints that has to do with maybe dashboard, the endpoint that connects a particular page to open another page. We have to look at endpoints like those public APIs that customers are using, plugging into their own system and all of that. Those public APIs, you should focus more on those kind of APIs, because you don't know the number of users they have. They don't have that data to give to you. So, and you're sharing your API, you have to try as much as possible to push for healthier APIs, right, for your public endpoints. So, yeah. So somebody mentioned, how do I determine API, right, and system capacity to know the number of special users? I think what I answered previously also answered this your question, right? Determining your API has to do with the public APIs or what you guys are using. Depend on the platform that API is being consumed. So if you're saying e-commerce, there's this kind of a standard way or this thing you can suggest for e-commerce websites, and it's based on data. You guys have to monitor the data that comes in and all of that, and then just increase number of that. So if you notice that this particular endpoint is being hit 100 times every single day, an average of 100 times every single day, so you now say, okay, let us try and make sure that we do a test, maybe 200, to see if it will stress it, right? And then we'll do a capacity around 100 or 150, right? The maximum capacity of 100 and 150. If you're a normal standard system, cases can handle that 100 or 150, it's not a problem. But you have to put like sleeps. So you understand, you have to put like sleeps to help accommodate something, because there are some tests that are, unrealistic, like just say you want to hit 100 endpoints and hold that 100 endpoints in 2 seconds. Come on. People are not that fast to run endpoints like that.
Okay, I think we've touched most of the questions. Okay, there's a question from Fumi. Where's the best place to carry out performance testing, staging, or live environment?
I think that conversation, to perform any test, basically, it should be in your sandbox. It's not really staging. Okay, so it depends on the naming convention of every company. So some people, staging is an environment that is pulled from production, right? By some people is before production. So me, I always encourage performance testing to be in after production, or even production itself, because most of those endpoints are public APIs, and people will always have these what they call it, sample APIs that you share to the public, right, for them to use and all of that. Just that the only thing is that for them to access it is API keys. So run your performance testing even on production, it doesn't matter. Just ensure that you are making use of your public API, and then you discuss with your team the merchant, so to speak, that you are using that public API that are just black box. Because I know once there's a public API shared, there's always a company merchant for it. So you just whitelist that company merchant, let's not be part of this, and then you run your performance test. But yeah, I go for sandbox after production most times.
All right, so that's all for the questions for now. You can continue with the session.
Okay, so we've spoken about couple of things, and then we're now looking into this particular lesson. So far, we understand that cases is mildly simple. It's not something that you have to crack your brain into it, right? It has if I didn't explain to you what this is and what that is, you may just find it difficult to put what's from here and there and all of that. So if we run this ramping, it should work, and it should give us our test results and all of that. But one of the things that one of the reasons we are here today is to learn this, and also to find a simpler way of running this test. Easy, breezy, English that cannot harm us and start making us think, how do we put this URL here, like Fumi mentioned earlier, or all of that we have to go over again. So that's where this comes in. Cases, cucumber steps. So this guy currently, what it does for you is it takes all those scripting, all those writing of so many get this, HTTP this, import that, yada, 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 into a simple, plain English. It does all the hard part for you, and just tell you, well, just put this script, put this feature file, and then just change the data according to your requirement, and then you are fine. Now that we are here, please, I'll share this. I'll share this now. Everybody go and hit the star button to like this guy. Is the call? I think I'm out of calls. So. Yeah, I'll share this now. Everybody go there and hit the star button, because this, by the time we're done with this conversation, this will be your go-to for any test automation you wish to do in terms of load testing. So yeah, we are back to our script, right? And everything has run, it's seen, check succeeded, yada, yada, yada. There's some certain things here that is telling us, look at your validation here, status was good, and all of that, right? So now we need to do this same thing in our cases cucumber step. Please mind you, there are some features as well that is still coming in as the package continues to grow. So I may not be demoing some of the features. I may not demo all the features, but as time goes on, you'll be hearing updates from this package. So we move on. So we don't have cases right now, because cases cucumber steps right now. So we need that. And now let us go to the package. So look at the features saying that writing test cases and JSON and generating HTML reports, right? And then flexible configuration, all of that. You can use both .env, can use API keys for those endpoints that uses API keys, right? And it also have some other things like, params, headers, all of that you can find in a normal HTML, right? A normal API, right? It does cleanups, and then it's also have some other cool stuffs. And yeah, so the best way to install this is using this, right? And just copy that and just put it on our project. So this will install quickly. While that is installing, let's go to the next thing. So they say the usage is what? Cases that run and the options, right? So there are so many options you can find. You must place the part of which you're running the test. That's normal. You can tell it the tag, if you want to do smoke or regression, depending on what you do. If you're using it for, API, just normal API test, or you just want to do load test, stress test, all of that. It supports tagging, right? And also configurations, different configurations. It supports overwriting, cleaning, and all of that. So I'm just going to come down and do some few installations here. Yeah, some of these installations are, optional, but I'll just do this for good measure. Okay, I think we've done that installation. Let's see, let's just give it a shot. Now, yeah, the next thing is to set up your configuration. That is the next thing to do. After the installation, you set up your configuration, right? Or, okay, we've done all the projects and all these installations. You can create a .env. This is optional, but let's just do this. Let's create a .env just for good measure, right? Yeah. So I'll create our .env. We'll make a directory, right? Call it features. Everything is on the README page, guys. So don't be scared. Just follow suit, right? Make a directory features, and it create a feature file, a feature folder for you, right? And then you can do steps as well. You can do steps as well, or you can just leave it anyone. You can just do steps. It will create the step folder too for you. See it, it's here for you. Now the next thing is, you need a configuration.
Sorry, Pascal, before you go far, so Adigun has mentioned that he doesn't quite understand this part. I just wanted to quickly drill down to the understanding part. So Adigun, have you installed any plugins, say like Badmos's Cypress, Cucumber? I think he has one. He has one plugin for that. He also has another for Playwright. Have you used any of those plugins before? Yes, you've used that for Cypress. All right, great. So this is supposed to, and you are familiar with Cucumber. So you can confirm that also. You're familiar with BDD and Cucumber? Not really. Okay. I guess that's where you are not quite clear on. So Cucumber is, sorry. Pascal.
Don't worry, let me just drop that documentation. Sorry. Drop that documentation. All right. So essentially, this is how the Cucumber file looks like, right? Look at the scenario. It's saying I'm withdrawing cash, right? Rules. It's like your typical test case, right? The one you write on your Excel sheet or your Jira, it's like a typical test case, but it's written in this format. So you see your rule: customer cannot withdraw more than whatever balance and all of that. So you have this like your expected behavior or something, right? Then scenarios, right? You withdraw, successfully withdraw within balance, right? And then this is your like test description, so to speak. And then this giving, when, and then is like your test steps to reproduce, right? I say Alice has to in the account. Alice tries to withdraw, yeah, and Alice withdraws it successfully, right? This one said Hamza has XYZ in the account. Hamza tries to withdraw this, and the withdrawal is declined. Are we clear on this? Adigo? What is the in front of it? Is it interesting or okay? Let me just let it slide. Which one is it? Oh, it is. All right, so don't worry. This is just the basic part of it. You will see it play out. Don't worry. Yes, it is. It is. For me, yes. Yes. So let's move forward now. Let's move forward now. Where was I? So we're just creating folders, and now we're about to create those feature files like we mentioned. And let's do get dot feature, right? And then let's create steps, but we don't need this because we only need a way to call our Cucumber, to call this guy, to call this cases Cucumber steps. So in explanation, how Cucumber works is you need a place for feature file and you need a place for steps. So in your Mocha, there is an it statement. There is it statement and your context. For those of us who use Cypress and everything, you see it statements, you see context, you see describe. That's how Mocha works. It's done with Mocha, right? Our playwright, yes, our Cypress, everything is built with Mocha for test. But the difference between a Mocha and a Cucumber is in this feature file, right? It's like an added step. So instead of you getting it as your it block and everything, that it changes to given or when or then, right? Giving, when, and then. Some people use and, like and, as part of the functions too, right? But majorly is given when and then, right? So I'll just quickly do this in our get endpoint. Let's just copy this. This is just the template that we'll be using for this. Oh yeah, we are yet to create our configuration. I think we were interrupted. Just copy this guy. It says here that just create a Cucumber.js file at the root of your project within the following with the following content, right? So we just have to create like a Cucumber.js on our root content, Cucumber.js, and just paste this guy. I think I might have errors. Maybe we have errors. No errors. Okay. So let's comment this tag. We'll visit that one later. Yeah, so now we now have our our file, our configuration file. This is almost done. This is almost perfect. All you just need to do is to import this index.ts. This is why we needed this index.ts. Just collect it, put quotes, right, and just paste it. This is why we need our index.ts. And in that index.ts, we just have to require our, we just have to require our, oh, this meeting stuff is not, yeah, require our, why is this not typing? Yeah, we just have to require our cases, Cucumber steps, and that is it, right? It will now import all the step definitions that the cases Cucumber step is built with. So is there any question on this point, please?
No additional questions asked. I think you saw that for me. Oh, okay. She mentioned I don't know if you've gone through the index.js, but that's the last question here. I think
This is the index. We are currently on the index.js, and this is the only thing we need on the index.js. That's all.
yeah, that's all for question.
So, can we go on?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Now that we have that, now we are pasting what our example file, our example, whatever. Let's take the one of get. Yes, example one is get. So our get, just paste it. Don't worry about the yellow lines. We'll sort that out, right? We've pasted our example one. Now, if you remember all the conversations we had up until now, you know virtual users, you know duration, you know request field and request duration, our P5 and whatever, right? Now, this guy is saying 50 virtual users, but let's not use 50 virtual users. Let us use the example virtual users that we used initially. Well, we can use that later and see if, because we don't really know the endpoints capacity here. Where is the previous test guy? Yeah, tests. Let's see, thresholds. I think it's on the other place. So this one says virtual is at 10 and 30 seconds. Virtual is at 10 for 30 seconds. And now we are saying let's do one less than 1% should fail. And then we do say 3 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds. Let's do that. Right? 3 milliseconds. So let's not use these endpoints because I don't know if they still work. Let's just use the one of yeah. So if you noticed, right, there are a couple of things here. I set a K6 script for get testing. I set for post. Do you understand? You have to tell it what you want. See, post, get, put, yeah. Just tell it. Just put exactly as it is. Get, post, or anything. So we are working on get, and that's why there's get here. Right? And then I set to run what? The K6 with the following configuration. Virtual user is 10, duration 30, request field should be less than 1%. And then the duration of each endpoint, at least 95% of them should hit a maximum of 200, right? That means it should be less than 200 milliseconds. That's what it means. Now, I said the following endpoints used. So this particular argument can take more than one endpoint. Can actually take more than one. All you just need to do is just put them, and then all those endpoints we use this configuration to run. I know somebody asked something like that. So that means this can actually be a perfect, how will I put a perfect API for you. All you just need to do is to reduce it one user, and all of that. And just all these things are validations. All these are validations too, right? They are also validations. So now let's make use of this guy. Use of this guy. And then I think we need to set the environment, but this is where I don't know if this will give an issue, but I just leave this for now and just use this as the default endpoint. Any questions so far? If I'm speaking to myself, or
None has been asked yet.
do we understand how .env work? I don't know if you should just please tell me how .env work, because it's kind of an advanced concept. So let me just explain how .env works. So .env is like a variable, right, that you can call. It's for your secret or some other sensitive data that you don't want to just put into that place like that. Like API keys, bearer token, all those stuff. .env helps you to do that. And the Cucumber Steps has that functionality to always put .env when you're trying to run your test, right? So it will now look for this .env and then call whatever thing that you have there if you're using it in your test here to run your test. Is that how will I put it? Is that simple enough for us to understand, please?
Yes, I guess it is.
No, it's not automatically generated. I created the file myself. If you check the configuration, you see where I said it that you should create a .env in your root project and all of that. This is a .env example. Someone is asking again, like Postman. Yes, you can use it. I answered it. I answered before. You can also use it like Postman. In fact, I think they've discontinued it. I'm not 100% sure. But I think you can actually import Postman collection directly into K6. But I think there's a
Plus to that.
plugin for that or something.
Okay, I think we can.
There's a way to call .env based on the name you give it, Beatrice. Just go and read more on .env. .env is everywhere. It's on Python. It's on. You can read more how they call .env. See it. You can decide to, oh, this is how I want to call .env, or just give it on default .env file. Most people make use of a default .env file. Whatever thing you have, just put it in there. Let it call it instead of you giving it a specific name. Because when you're working on your project in your local, you're only using one environment at a time. So why not just take an environment for .env, right? And just that .env, you can say maybe base URL underscore staging, base URL underscore this, and then just call the base URL what the kind of file you want to run. Yeah, so I think we can continue. So now we have this. This endpoint does not need validation, right? As in auth. So we said auth none, or you can just take it out completely. It's entirely up to you, right? So as you said get here, you also say get here, right? So you should this API should handle the get request successfully. So now that we have this set up, there are some certain things. This one is just an additional stuff, right? Let us go to our node modules. Node modules to show you Cucumber steps, right? And then you go straight. Please pay attention, guys. Just take this index.js, just copy relative part, why I'm doing this is because there's a package that will help you remove those yellow lines on the test file. This is just an external extension stuff that will help you remove them. So all you just need to do is to go to the settings, download this this extension. It's called Cucumber, this particular one. You see others, but this is the one you should download. And then you go to settings on this. And then you have to map. You go to glue first, you go to glue, because I have this thing, and then just put that directory I mentioned earlier. I took earlier, node modules cucumber steps.js, right? Index.js, save it. And then you also map where your feature file would be, right? Which is copy relative paths, right? You go back to the settings, you go up to cucumber.feature, right? And then you click on edit settings, and then you paste the same thing, cucumber.features/what asterisk for all the features you might find .feature, right? Comma to clear out the error. That should be it. You can also do this for the using this guide as well. You can add this to the index part too on the settings as well. From steps, you add it to, instead of the feature, you add it to the glue as well. This should help us, take out the error we are having on. Should help us to take out the error that we're having on. I think this should go by now. Should I just do this? I picked the wrong. Confirm. I always have this issue trying to map it. It's always give me small wahala. Okay, I already have the semicolon. So okay, this is not top priority right now. We'll sort that out. So now let's look at what we have currently. Let's look at the cucumber. We've mapped out this guy, and then we need to map out where our feature files are. Is it correct? So copy relative path, and then put it here, right? There's a command for payloads. There's a command for tags. We do not add tags yet, so I removed it from our lesson. So let me remove this one too, so that it will not check it. Right. Payloads. The folder payload is actually just a folder where you can put all your payload in JSON files. So if you have a payload that you want to use for a certain endpoint, all you just need to do is to create a payload folder in and then you add in your JSON files of all the payload that you need. For instance, username and password and all of that, how it will look like on Postman. So we'll get to that point. So this is like a reporter for you as well. And you're saying the reporter should be true. And then overwriting is false. That means for every test you run, it will not overwrite the previous test that you've run, correct? So that is what this is about. So now, moment of truth. I'm just going to put, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to, oh, we're not on our case. I'm just going to copy this. Let's run command. Yeah. So I'm just going to run this guy from here. We're not putting any option because we have a configuration file, which is this. We already have a configuration file. Remember, we did something similar at the beginning of the conversation where you can either pass it on the terminal or you have a file that would determine the arguments, right? So this is like a configuration file that determines the argument. If not, we're passing it on the command directly, right? So let's just do this. I'll just put in cases, NPS, cases step run. So you see, it has picked everything that we need, and then it has run it. It's even mapping up no such hosts. Interesting. First phase, no such host. We make a mistake in. Oh, yes, we did. So let's repeat that. So you can see the virtual users, right? 10, this. It has picked everything that we needed. It's showing for us like what are the requirements before we start running our test. But now, seeing the test happen. The command is take this out and see. Sharing request field. That's something we're missing out on. See the application. Seems to be an issue here. So the issue is public. So you can see that the report was generated, but not completely, which is weird actually. Which is weird. Let's look at the reports. Let's look at the reports. This is the Cucumber reports. This is how it will look like, but This is just one side of the report here. It's telling us how this is how the report is going to look like for Cucumber. But there's also a cases report that's supposed to come with it, and then we show us the complete test reports, the failures or the passes or the virtual users and all of that. But we can also share this with the stakeholders to let them understand the requirements and what went down. But just give me a sec. I need to quickly do something here now. Let's see if I can look for the version that's probably had. There's an issue around this guy. It shouldn't be the case. Okay, it's obvious there's an issue here. Sorry, I may have done something different this time. Sorry, just a sec. Let me try and run something and see. Let me see if it has to do with load or something else, if the failures are valid, but it's supposed to drop more reports other than this. Okay, it's obvious that something is going on in our script initially. So let's see. This one is 3 virtual users. And no, let's use the other. How many virtual users was that previous one? Maybe it has to do with that. I'm not sure if that's 10 virtual users, 30 seconds. I'm not sure that was the case. 30 seconds. 01. This is 300 and see if that was the case. Hmm. Hmm. So I think the check is as a result of the load. Maybe it's the system or something that is the issue. But let me just increase
Do you want to
duration.
use a different site, a different application?
Yeah, that can work too. But if we cannot use that of K6, I wonder what one we'll be able to use. Right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Okay, 10 virtual users. That's weird. I actually use the same thing.
You could
It's really,
just try google.com. Let's see if to hit the Google page or maybe random like Facebook or Udemy.
okay, let's do that.
Is that, yeah.
Let's do that. Maybe it's just my PC, I don't know. So while that is running, I would like to show you the combined reports that I spoke earlier. Open it. Yes, so you can see here now that we have some certain, this is better than what we used to see on our command line, correct? So on our command line, we see all these similar things, but now this one is visible. We are checking, we're doing some checks here, right? And we're checking the 95%, right? We're checking the 90, it's even showing us that of 90 percentile, right? And then it's telling us that, okay, 95% of the endpoints did below 300 milliseconds and all of that. And then also showed us the virtual users, the checks. Look at the checks. It did, so we're saying max users, but in these max users, it repeated this in the time that we give it, right, which is 30 seconds. And that is why we have up to like this in total request, and total request is also this, right? And then look at the checks here as well. Status is 200, right? And all of them passed, and there were no failures, and that's why we have all this green. And then if you come down here again, something has, I think it has changed. There was a test we were running. But let's review this again. So this one, it has the what they call it, the tests ran again, and that is why it's now picking the latest one. But this is actually not the file that we're looking for. It actually changed the file that was supposed to be here. And that's why we didn't see it before, because in that previous one, it actually passed, right? So, but this is the test that the combined reports had. So it's supposed to attach the previous test here. I think this is an issue, so I'll have to look into it. Right, it attached the previous Cucumber test and then also give us the matrix of that as well. Then if you still want to use link, you can still use, oh shoot, this is a bug. You can still use link for it. It has gone off again. That's a bug. So essentially, this is the default. This one was actually added by me, but this is a default. These three tabs was like a default from the person that did it, right? But when you are using, this is a Ben Coleman, right? When you are using the right, if you are using my package, you'll be having an extra tab for it to give your stakeholders and tell them so that they can make a better informed decision. So maybe I'll look at this in later time. I really don't understand if it's my PC that is not taking more virtual users. Is it a virtual user thing or it's just frustrating? I don't really know, but I will have to check. I'll have to check this. I'll have to check this. I'll have to check this. Do this again and see what the problem is here. Okay, I think is is a small issue. I'll have to look at it with different PCs and understand capacities, right, of PCs before I will use it, right? So essentially, this will generate for us, Cucumber reports and combined reports too for both K6. Individually, you can see the reports individually. You can actually see the reports there, but you see it, default one, you don't have the last tab on it and all. But if you still wish to, it's not, it's still, the bug is still there. If you still wish to have the combined one, because most times you'll be sending in combined reports, right? You still want to have the combined reports, you can actually do it. You can see it will also give you more of the tabs, right, for the previous ones that you've run and all, right? Previous ones you've run. This still is in, how will I put it? It's still a better version. I'm still trying to clean it up, right? So you can do that, and it has their dates, so you know which one is which. And all. So that is it, right? Do we have any questions for me?
Okay, so there are no questions in the chat. I don't know if there's anyone. Please, what's the name of the reporter used? Okay, so
Yes.
it's asking what the name of the reporter is.
Cases reporter, HTML reporter.
Okay. So I guess that's so far is all the questions in the comment section. I don't know if they're all. How do we add the step definition? Okay, so
Yes.
Jackson.
So that step definition I mentioned, just add an index.js, right? And then call in this. And then you'll be fine. Then if you're using TypeScript, it's going to be like imports and then call in this. I think this one will not work. Yeah, K6, this, you're using TypeScript or ES model. Yeah.
Okay, so Fumi says you can use, is asking if you can use HTML extra also.
HTML extra is not for this. So HTML extra has its own JSON that it calls from, and HTML extra uses Postman's own JSON reports. That is Newman's own JSON report, yeah. So you can't use this. So for you to generate an HTML, you need a JSON that will populate the data, and the data are different. Yeah.
All right. I think that's all for questions in the chats currently. I don't know if there's anyone who wants to verbally ask their question. You can raise your hand if that's the case, but I just want to say a very big thank you to Pascal. Thank you so much. Let's also say our appreciations to him. Thanks a lot for running us through. I know you've had to do a lot. Okay, so there's a hand raised though. While the rest of us mention our thank yous, you've had to take it step by step, introduce some to Cucumber, introduce us to K6, and its structure, its setup, how it's different from JMeter and all. Thank you so much. We'll quickly take Chukwuemeka's question. Chukwuemeka, your hand is raised. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, Pascal. Good evening. Thank you so much for this session. So I have a question regarding this tool. We say this is a reputable, will I say, alternative for JMeter, kind of like the way you use Playwright or Cypress?
Yes.
So do you say this is a reputable,
Yes. It's the the top dogs right now is either JMeter or K6.
Okay. But I also didn't see anything on using Node scripts to run. Since it's JavaScript, I didn't see any npm any scripts to like run this from CMD.
I did that. There is npx cases cucumber steps run, and then you can also call the configuration you want. So there are other ways. If you don't call any configuration at all, like you want to just call cucumber, so and you have your, let me go to this thing where it is. I think this is it. So you see this configuration here. It automatically gets picked when you just run this command, npx cases cucumber steps run. Do you get?
Yeah.
It will look for this configuration and run. But if you don't want to use it, and you probably have like a folder where you add all your config, let's say you call this config, and you say module one. You spell module again. Module.js. That is the particular module you are working with, right? And then you probably just do this module, and then you want to use this one now. So you can just simply say dash dash config, right? And now get the directory of this guy, right? And just put it. So you're no longer using this config, right? You are now using this config to run. So it will skip that guy and make use of this config for your test runs. It doesn't have to be in any folder anyway, so that also you should bear in mind. So yeah, this is the command for you to run. A simple command, no need for anything. But if you still want to use, config.js or anything like that, there's also other options that you can use. You can do it on this, and so there are some must config that you have. Look at the example usage right here. You must pass in the argument of feature and put in the directory, right, where your features files are. You can do tags as well. You can tag, at load and not work in progress, right? You can say, reporter, I want the reporter to be cleaned, right, before I run anything. So it will clean the report before it runs a new test report, right? It depends on what you want, but you see this complete part like this feature file, it must be there, right? It must be there before you run it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks everyone for staying in to the end. Thanks for your questions. And thank you so much. A special shout out to Pascal. Thank you so much. I know this is our first time hosting you, and we hope you'd honor our invitation another time. Hope we didn't stress you too much.
It's fine. You should also check out some of my other packages, right? I did Cucumber Steps 2 for Playwright. Easy to plug in, start using it, and then you just, you don't have to know Playwright. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to know Playwright to use that Playwright Cucumber Steps. You don't have to know Playwright.
Okay,
is follow the steps, use it, and then you are using Playwright. It's also English, pure English, nothing.
Thank you so much. We'll probably set up a session for that when we get to our segments for playwrights. We're taking it steps by step. So this section is centered around APIs. So would most likely love to have you again, and we hope that when we send out an invitation, you'll honor it. So ANSD, all attendees, let's say a special thank you to Pascal. Thank you so much for spending your time, and sharing your wealth of experience and knowledge with us. We're super grateful. One more time, please, for those who were paying rapt attention and forgot to go and star the K6 Cucumber plugin, please, I've dropped the link in the channel. Do well to go to that GitHub repo and drop a star there. I'm dropping it again in this chat. Thank you so much. It was great having you. And thanks
Thank you.
everyone for staying till
Thank
the
you
end.
everyone for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pascal. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Bye.